What's up, self-healers? Lisa Lightfeather here. Welcome to my channel, Closing the Gap, where we make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. Today, I wanted to come on and speak about the topic of awakened too soon, knowing too much too soon. Yeah. So we are at the beginning stages of the global awakening, right? And so there's a split, there's a divide between the 3D realm and the 5D realm, right? And so some of us are in the 3D realm, some of us are in the 5D realm. Some of us walk in both worlds because we still have to work a 3D job, but we're in the midst of having a spiritual awakening, or we have had a spiritual awakening and we're still in the midst of our 3D job. We have to walk both worlds, and that's pretty painful, yeah? So those of us who have awakened, right? It's a blessing and it's a curse, because it's a blessing because you've been chosen to be a part of that awakening. But it's a curse because 90% of the people that you come into contact with are not awakened. And so you never fit in anywhere. And because you see too much, right? You get too many downloads. You're able to see energy. You're able to see people's motives. You're able to see people's hearts. You're able to see things that 90% of people are not seeing yet, right? So the 10% of us who are awakening, I don't know the actual percentages and statistics. I'm just using that as an example. We're surrounded by 90% of people who don't get it, right? So we're awakening, and we're in touch with things like other people's energy, nature, animals, certain things that we can communicate with and see that other people can't see. It's scary because the 90% will assume that the 10% has some type of mental disorder or something. And so we're walking a thin line, yeah? So for those of you who don't know, I did 22 years in the military. I retired from the military as a captain. I was a drill sergeant. I deployed to Afghanistan. So in 22 years, I've done a lot of military work, right? My awakening started at the end of my military career. Thank God it started at the end, because if it had started in the middle, I wouldn't have finished. Because once you awaken to even the military, you're just like, wait a minute, this is all a bunch of BS. I'm not really fighting for my country. Really, this is what's happening. But that's a whole nother story when you awaken in the military and realize what the military is really here for versus what you have been conditioned to believe what the military is here for, right? So awakening in the military is crazy work in itself. So in the military, there was something called the Forward Movement Team. The Forward Movement Team was a team of specialized individuals like the Rangers, Special Forces, the engineers. As an MOS, it was the engineers. So the Rangers and Special Forces, they went and they cleared the way. They got at the time, they were referring to these people as terrorists and blah, so forth and so on. So they got all the terrorists out of the way. They set up a perimeter. The Special Forces and Rangers didn't do that. The engineers went out there and set up a perimeter, right? So what they're doing is they're preparing the space for the foot soldiers, for the rest of the soldiers to come in and take over that particular territory. So the engineers, they go out before everybody else and they clear the land. They clear the land of mines. They clear the land of any booby traps. They clear the land of any trees that are in the way so that the rest of the foot soldiers can come in and set up their establishments and things of that sort. So their job is very dangerous, because although the Rangers and Special Forces went out there before them and cleared out any enemies or made it safer for the engineers to come in, a lot of engineers actually lost their lives because they went out there and they stepped on mines. They were clearing the land, and they come across some mine, and then them and their vehicles or their equipment explodes, and they lose their lives. They set up a path that's clear. Now, it's not necessarily clear to your left and right of that path, right? But they set up a path that's clear for sure, so that when soldiers come through, they have that one path, they have that clear path to walk on, and they don't have to worry about stepping on a mine. Now, if that soldier decides they don't want to walk on that path and they want to cut across the grass and they step on a mine, now that's something that's not what you're trained to do. So if you do that, then you're taking a risk with your life, right? So that's what us who have awakened at the beginning stages of the global awakening, that's what we are. We're the forward movement team. We're sent out ahead of everybody else to clear the way, to make sure there's no mines, to make sure there's no booby traps, to clear out the enemy. I don't mean that in a way literally. I mean that in a way spiritually, right? And so we have to go through this spiritual awakening where we're clearing out the energy, right? And that's what Kundalini does. It clears out the energy. It clears out the blockages. It awakens the shadow. And the awakened have to deal with that shadow. And that is literally like spiritual warfare. It is spiritual warfare on a daily basis for the awakened empath that is awakened at the beginning of this global awakening. The forward movement team. We are the forward movement team of the spiritual war that's happening. We're the ones taking the hit. We're the ones ending up on the 5th floor in a straitjacket because everybody's like, you're crazy. We're the ones that are feeling the energy, feeling other people's energy. And sometimes mistaking that energy as our own because it's so intense, until the empath gets used to it and recognizes what's theirs and what's not theirs. It's chaotic. It's chaotic to the extent of a man can be attracted to you. You don't know that man from the man on the moon. You're not interested in them at all. But because their sexual attraction is so strong, you feel it as if it's yours. Or their anger towards you is so strong. I learned through Carl Jung, as I was doing my shadow work, that anger and sexuality are kissing cousins. If you have repressed anger, 9 times out of 10, you have repressed sexuality, or vice versa. And when that repressed anger comes to the surface, that repressed sexuality comes right behind it. So someone can be angry at you. They can despise you. And your body can interpret it as some type of sexual energy. Now, this is hard to explain because if you haven't experienced it, you'll be like, what? How? What? Right. I get it. So we are the ones that have to go ahead and pave the way to make that path like the engineers do, so that the soldiers behind us can walk on that path and they don't step to the left or the right and step on a mine and explode. This is not an easy mission. It's not. You go to therapy with this stuff, they're going to try to put you on all kinds of medications, telling you that you're schizophrenic or they're going to come up with some DSM-5 term for it, right? The DSM-5 term for a Kundalini Awakening is referred to as a spiritual emergency. And a spiritual emergency it is indeed. So for those who may not know what they're going through, what's happening in their awakening process, they can literally lose it. Some people go through Kundalini Awakenings and it's so intense and it's so chaotic and it's so different from walking into this 3D realm that they unalive themselves. This is why it's important that those that go ahead, those of us who are on the spiritual forward movement team. We're the ones that's opening the road, laying the ground, making sure that it's safe. We're the ones that are coming out saying, hey, you're not crazy. No, that probably wasn't a heart attack. It was probably Kundalini going through the heart chakra. No, you're probably not sexual perverted. It's just probably ancestral trauma through the sacral chakra, and the Kundalini's clearing it out, and you've been chosen to be the one to clear that out. No, you're not seeing things. You're not schizophrenic when you see a shadow walk by, or you feel somebody's energy walk by, and you can see their darkness, their darkest darkness. No, you're not crazy when you have anxiety attacks that are so intense that you don't even want to leave your house. Because every time you leave your house, you're picking up on other people's energy, and it's so intense, it feels like your own. No, you're not crazy when you say you go to all these places and people just automatically dislike you. They can pick up on your energy. They can see that you're different. They can see that you are part of the spiritual forward movement team. They can see that you're the first one on ground. You know how much bravery it requires to be the first one on ground? It's easy for the foot soldiers to come through after the special forces and the rangers and the engineers have come and cleared the way. Now quartermaster can come. They can bring the food. They can bring the water. They can bring the bullets. They can bring the beans. Beans, boots, and bullets. Now the medics can come. Now the social workers can come. Because the forward movement team has cleared the way. If you're in the midst of your awakening, you're one of the ones who have been chosen to awaken. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. But the reason you've been chosen is because your higher self knows that you have what it takes to clear the way, to be a trailblazer, to make sure that the other soldiers that come behind you are safe, to give them the answers to the test so they can put those answers in their tool bags and say, oh yeah, I remember when such and such said, or when such and such did. To be there to hold space for the people that are coming behind you on this awakening, and to hold space for your battle buddies to your left and right. To be the one that says, leave no man behind. These are all military terms. The one that can hold space for the one coming behind them that's having the spiritual awakening. It's a powerful position to be in. And in the spirit realm, you are high ranking. Now in the military, I was considered pretty high ranking. I mean, of course, people are always going to outrank you. But if you're one of the ones who have been chosen to awaken in the spirit realm, you are high ranking. Just like in the spirit realm, like in the 3D realm, you may be high ranking, but there's always going to be somebody who outranks you, right? Sometimes you outrank people and they surpass you. Honor that as well. This isn't about ego. This isn't about who's higher and who's lower, although there is always a hierarchy. In the military, my platoon sergeant was an E7 or an E6. I surpassed him, became an E6, went on to become, I became an E6, right? Got into trouble, didn't realize it was the beginning of my journey. Or a highlight. It wasn't the beginning. It was another apex. It was another turning point. Got into a bunch of trouble because of the narc, and I wasn't emotionally intelligent to handle it and didn't know what I was into until later when I looked back on it and realized I was with the narc. Lost my E6, got demoted, came back around, got my E6 back, so now I'm back with that platoon sergeant, right? And went on to get E7 and eventually become a captain. So I got my rank back and surpassed my platoon sergeant. This will happen to you in the spiritual realm as well. People are on different paths. It's not about competition. It's about blazing the path that you're on. Some people are born already surpassed you, especially these babies today. They coming out knowing. But you're here to blaze the path for the people that come behind you who have not awakened yet. You are part of the spiritual forward movement team. You're the one clearing the land. You're the one clearing the way. You're the one making it safe for everyone else to come through. Don't second guess yourself. Don't second guess your calling. Don't second guess your purpose. If you've awakened ahead of others, it's for a reason. Now, what you do with that is up to you. But know that you are in a valuable position along this spiritual journey. And the position that you're in matters. It's not for naught. It's for a reason that you've been chosen to awaken, to be part of the first group to awaken. It's an honor, and it's a curse and a blessing at the same time. But if you didn't have what it took, you wouldn't have been called. So trust in yourself, trust in your inner knowing that you have awakened for a reason. Well, that's all I have for you today here on Closing the Gap, where we make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. If you like my content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment down there. Let me know, how's your spiritual awakening going, yeah? What would you like to chat about next? And if you're really feeling my vibe, don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you know the next time that I upload. We'll see you next time here on Closing the Gap.